Tonight on CTV News, we have a closer look at a film that showed here on campus.
Plus, we have an interview with a reporter who is at the Nevada Caucus.
All this and more coming up on CTV News now. Thanks for tuning in to CTV News. I'm Willis Scott.
And I'm Karlee Schwartzkopf, filling in for Cassandra Ozzie. Let's get started.
For 50 years now, one professor has been shooting for the moon, at least with a telescope. Roger Culver is Colorado State University's astronomy professor and has now announced his retirement for this August. He was brought on staff in the 1960s to develop the astronomy courses that didn't even exist back then. He teaches both the intro-level classes and astrophysics classes. He will always be remembered by his students as the professor that wore matching color socks to whatever shirt he wore. Thank you, Professor Culver, for teaching us to look towards the stars.
The Collegian sent 2 reporters to Nevada to cover both the Democratic and Republican caucus. Sadie Swanson and Erik Petrovich have been following the action for the past few days and are still there covering the results from the Republican caucus happening right now. Our producer, Alec Erickson, got to sit down over Skype with Erik to hear what he thinks this means for the candidates.
Now, the thing about Nevada is that it is the first state in the western United States to report its results. This is important because Nevada's the first state that has, varied demographics. Whereas Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, even, it's very, very heavy white. It's very heavy. It's all kind of the same demographic. Whereas Nevada has 27% Latino population. It's got a high Asian, black population. The results here from the Republican and Democratic parties caucuses will probably say a lot about how minorities are looking to vote in other states. The thing about Trump is that he's better at rallying people who wouldn't normally go out and vote. He's better at getting kind of a lower America, middle America is kind of the way I'm going to describe it. People who aren't involved in the political process to go out and vote, whereas usually minority populations are already very involved. I don't think he has to rely on minority votes. It's the other candidates that kind of have to appeal to that. Like Rubio's appealing to Latino vote. Clinton and Sanders very much appealed to minorities. I don't think Trump has to worry about minorities here. The candidates that aren't Trump or Sanders on both sides are trying to kind of appeal to Trump and Sanders' voters by taking some of their policies and things like that. Okay. Not specifically Nevada, but just in general.
Go on our YouTube channel for the full interview, and you can follow both Erik Petrovich and Sadie Swanson on Twitter for all the live updates from the caucus. Erik is at E-A Petrovich and Sadie is at Sadie Swan.
The National Collegiate Athletic Association will fund a research project on concussions headed by a Colorado State University professor. Doug Coatsworth, a professor in CSU's Department of Human Development and Family Studies, will receive $400,000 over 3 years to study the cultural dynamics of concussions. Coatsworth will be working along with concussion specialists, and they aim to see if America is developing a culture or resistance around reporting concussions.
After surviving a horrific event that killed nearly 11 million people, one man will tell his tale at Colorado State this Wednesday. 91-year-old Albert Rosa will be speaking at the Lurie Student Center at 7 in the evening. Rosa, who was taken by the Nazis at the age of 15, spent time in Auschwitz. He was able to escape and find Allied forces. His story will focus on his journey of escape, and tickets are not required to attend the event.
Over 500,000 torture survivors live in the U.S. Beneath the Blindfold is a documentary that tells the stories of 4 survivors and the impact torture has had on their physical and psychological health. Students and faculty attended the showing of Beneath the Blindfold in the LSC Theater last night. The film was followed by a Q&A session with one of the filmmakers and CSU professor Janet Sehorn.
Torture has not gone away. It may not be in the headlines as much, but if you dig a little, you drill down a little bit and you think about why there are refugees today, for example, fleeing Syria, fleeing Iraq, Afghanistan, many of them have been tortured or they're leaving because they're being threatened with torture. Torture has not stopped. This film was really about debunking some of the myths that we've been fed, as well as putting a human face on what torture is. what it is, what it isn't, and why we really shouldn't tolerate that as a democratic society, and why we shouldn't be supporting regimes that practice it around the world. This film has been shown in Asia and Australia and Europe and Turkey and India. It's been shown internationally. It's been at United Nations Human Rights Film Festivals. It's been shown in colleges around this country. Big coup for us was showing it in front of the U.S. Congress in Washington, D.C. back in 2014. That was a huge coup for us. And if it is able to change one person's mind or give a little bit of information that maybe somebody didn't consider before, if it changes the discussion a little bit, then I will have felt that we succeeded.
For more information about the film, you can visit beneaththeblindfold.com. Well, that's all the time we have for news.
But don't go anywhere. We have weather coming up with Neil Denman.
Stay tuned.